Hello there, thanks for watching this. We're still in Titus, and we're in Titus chapter 3, and we're slowly working our way towards the end of the chapter. And we're really about verse 10 and 11, and we've looked at that over last week and again this week. Let me read it to you. A man that is an heretic after the first and second admonition reject, knowing that he that is such is subverted, and sinneth, being condemned of himself. Now, we spoke about this, and we thought about someone who turns away from the truth. But there is something else in these verses that I just want to talk to you about today, because looking at various translations, it's really got the idea also in it, somebody who has a party spirit, someone who is divisive. The idea of the heretic is not just turning away from the truth yourself, but actually drawing others after you, someone that is factious, someone who is divisive. Now it says to warn them twice. You know, this is very important, because when you come to the writings of Paul in 1 Corinthians, Paul teaches very clearly in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, and he deals with it running into further chapters, into chapter 4 as well. Chapter 3, he talks about strifes and divisions, people who say, I am of Paul, I am of Apollos, and he deals with that also in chapter 1 about a sectarian spirit, and he warns against that. So it is entirely wrong for men who draw after themselves a following, for those who divide God's people, and especially what is really wrong, all of that is wrong completely, but what is even worse is a person who draws people after themselves to support false doctrine and false teaching. And Titus is being warned here, a man that is like that after the first and second warning, then be done with, be finished with. And he's warning that that person is someone who is turned aside from the truth, someone who is turned outside in the truth. And there are three things that it says in verse 11. That person is subverted, they have perverted the truth, they've turned aside from the truth, they're turning others from the truth. That person is sinning, they're doing what is sinful, what is wrong, and that person is self-condemned. Three things. They subvert, they sin, and they're self-condemned. And that's a warning to Titus that he should be very careful to be finished with and have nothing to do with those who are opposed to the truth, who divide God's people and cause a party spirit and division amongst God's people, and who actually are turning upside down the truth of God. Now that's a warning for us today, that in any local church fellowship, when someone rises who draws attraction to themselves instead of Christ, who turns away from the truth, who turns upside down what is right and calls it wrong, and things that are wrong he calls it right, who causes division amongst God's people, causes a party spirit, that person has turned away from the truth, they're subverted, they're sinning, and they're actually condemned in themselves by what they do. And we're warned, as Titus is warned here, to be finished with that person. That needs to be a separation from what is evil, what is wrong, what is sinful. Now, when you follow through those pastoral epistles, we find that Timothy is taught the same thing. He's taught to actually distance himself from people who teach things that are wrong. And you would find that running through different chapters. In chapter 1, he talks about two men, Hymenaeus and Alexander, and they had made shipwreck concerning the faith, and Paul says that he's delivered them unto Satan. They've been put out of fellowship. Paul has that authority to do that in this case because he's an apostle, and the elders in the church have that authority, and he's distanced himself, he's put them away. And now you'll find those things running through 1st and 2nd Timothy, that where false teaching arises, there's a distance that needs to be put between those who teach what is false, and especially those who encourage what is false amongst other Christians. Now I hope that as we think about this, it is a serious subject, it is a very important subject to consider, but I hope that we'll be warned that there needs to be a conscious effort to maintain what is true, what is truthful, what is biblical, what is scriptural, and there's sometimes difficult actions that need to be taken to actually ensure that that is the case. I trust that God will bless His word to us this week.